and I saw the Fontainebleau Hotel, the one that was the WWE host hotel. They had all those events. I mean, did you see the story about that they're had to lay off a bunch of employees?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, they're hurting bad, and they're not the only ones. So right now, the idea of getting big stuff in Vegas is really big. And also Vegas itself as a city, as I wrote in the story, I mean, every year they want something gigantic in sports. And in their mind, that's Final Four, college football, Super Bowl, of course, and Mania. And, because the other stuff, baseball.
They're not getting that with the A's. This is not happening.
Yeah, well, the thing with baseball, obviously. But the thing with like baseball or basketball or even hockey is that the team that gets the championship are the two teams. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas the college football championship game, the Final Four, I mean, those are chosen, WrestleMania, Super Bowl, those are chosen. Doesn't matter the teams. It doesn't matter who does well. It's not a home game. It's a specific thing. And Vegas wants, that's the type of events they want. And they want one every year. And you're not going to get the Super Bowl every year. You're certainly not going to get the Final Four every year. You're not going to get WrestleMania every year, but they want WrestleMania on those years that they can't get another one. Especially, they want WrestleMania on a very regular rotation. And there's a lot of people in TKO who are from the Vegas area or like to go to Vegas. And you got Nick Khan, who's grew up in Vegas, and they know Vegas. Vegas was very convenient, especially compared to Los Angeles. With Los Angeles, the traffic is horrible. Getting from place to place is horrible. With Vegas, everything's like right on within a couple mile radius of each other for the most part. And even though traffic sucked there too, it's you can do a lot of walking, and everything's convenient. And the point is, everyone in WWE that had to go from place to place to place, nobody had problems getting from place to place to place and being there on time. Whereas in other cities, when you hit traffic or things are far away, it was a lot less convenient than Vegas. Vegas was a great site in a lot of ways. They did sell out both shows. So, that was good. But the question is of those fans, they're used to going to different cities. Will they go back to Vegas for the second year? And I think they will. And again, because this is all coming down right now all at once, essentially. They pulled out literally yesterday morning was when they told New Orleans they were out, although they had been talking with New Orleans for, I guess, a week and had been kept quiet, which was the deal where, okay, you're going to get money in the bank and we will give you another WrestleMania in a couple of years. So that was kind of the deal. I mean, some people have said, oh, they added a UFC, and the UFC was in all those stories. But that UFC show with the Smoothie King, I mean, that's been announced for a long time. It has nothing to do with this deal. They were going to get that either way. But the UFC pay-per-view. But so I mean, the whole thing is that like when I started all this, there's stuff at the convention center. There was stuff booked for the building, for the stadium, that's in the way and inconvenient. And I think they thought that they could just tell the promoters, hey, we'll give you another date. And the reality is the promoters of both events said, we don't want another date and we got a contract. So they got to figure out a way through this. I mean, maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know how it's going to be done. I mean, I'm not, I don't want to say I'm sure it's going to be Vegas, but
do we know who the artist is?
No, I don't know who the promoter or the artist is. And I don't know who the other company is that has booked some of the convention center, not all of it. Like WWE could still run in a smaller setup. They don't really want to. But I think that one they could just go if we have to, or, if we make a deal, we make a deal. That's a smaller problem, but the setup of Mania is the big problem right now.
So the concert is at the football stadium, or it's at
yes,
the basketball stadium? Okay.
It's at Allegiant Stadium. Yeah, it was a basketball stadium. Who would care? Yeah, that wouldn't matter.
Well, I was just thinking
they don't have
I thought it was like a Raw thing or something.
No. It's stadium setup, because they need like a week or two or more to set up the whole place for Mania, and there was an event there that's in the way of the setup. So that's the problem that they're going to have to alleviate. And I don't, I was given the impression that that it would probably be alleviated, but it wasn't as of yesterday.
Got it. What is the longest hot period that WWE has experienced in their lifetime?
What do you mean by hot?
Well, because what Vegas is banking on is that WWE stays as hot as they are right now to run 2 nights and to get 50 to 60,000 people in the building. Are they going to be this hot in 5 years? I mean, I don't know, but history would say it's hard. It's really hard.
History would say no, but in the real world, they look at this and the success they're having and think it's the genius of TKO, Nick Khan, and all this. And again, I don't want to downplay them at all. They but the point is, it was the same thing in the late '90s, where Vince was this genius and everything he did turned to gold, and everyone thought it'll always be like this. And then whatever it was from 2002 to really like 2022, they were nothing compared to then. And now, they're hot again. There's no way, why did they go down in the past? Okay. So if we look at the Hogan era as being big, I can tell you what happened. Hogan got older. Vince wanted to replace him, but he'd built everything around Hogan for so long that everything that wasn't Hogan was lesser. Bret Hart was lesser. That doc, when they talked about, like, what was it, like 2,000 tickets sold for WrestleMania? I mean, I was stunned. And when you think about, like, and at low prices for that first Vegas WrestleMania, when they, finally called Hogan in to save the day, so to speak. And if you look at those Mania buy rates, up until, what was the big one? 98 with Tyson was when it turned around.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the Bret Hart and Steve Austin, the most greatest match in WrestleMania history, that show did 237,000 buys on pay-per-view.
Taker and Sid Vicious on top.
Taker, yeah, which was the main, yeah, but Bret and Steve was still the big match. But yeah, Taker and Sid was a terrible main event. Terrible idea for a main event. Vince had panicked. It was supposed to be Bret and Shawn, as the main event. And then, business wasn't doing great. And Vince, Vince's mentality when business isn't doing great is, they're too small. Bret and Shawn are too small. So they got the heat. So we're going to go with Undertaker and Sid, 2 giant guys in the main event of Mania that nobody gave a shit about, really. And some people will argue, I love Sid and Undertaker and blah, blah. They didn't draw, okay?
That match wasn't good either. That was a bad match.
Yeah, but the point is that didn't draw. And Bret and Shawn, they couldn't do Bret and Shawn because Shawn had his career-ending knee injury.
Lost his smile.
Didn't want to lose to Bret. Although, if he had not gotten hurt, I have no doubt that Shawn might have cried enough to Vince that Vince would have
to get it changed.
Because of what happened in England with Shawn and Davey. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Where Davey's promised for a year. That story. Davey's promised. You're going to get your big win over Shawn. At Manchester, Davey's hometown, at the big arena. Davey goes on TV. I'm dedicating this match to my sister who has cancer. Blah blah blah. And then the week before the show, I mean, I was told flat out, because everyone knew Shawn wasn't doing many jobs, and certainly not for a guy like Davey. It's like, don't worry, it's 100%. This is Davey's. It's his town. You're going to see Shawn is going to do the job. And I wasn't told anything different. And then, the thing happens. It's like Shawn wins the title. And then, the Hart side and Davey, just Davey, they promised Davey he would get to win it later and all this, don't worry, you'll beat Shawn on the next one. But boy, were they, can imagine, you dedicate the match to your sister who's dying, and then Shawn comes in and the finish gets changed. I mean, that's like the worst, but that's wrestling for you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so because of that story, I always thought that, I'm not so sure that Bret would have gotten his win back. And, knowing Bret and Shawn in 1997, if Vince came up and just goes, we had to change of plan, Shawn's going to win, I could just imagine, that would have been another disaster for sure.
They might have had another fight at that moment, or at least Brett would.
I can just imagine, Brett, Vince, I mean, so here's the funny part of the whole thing. All of this happens, right? And we still talk about, and it's true, how Tony mismanaged the Punk and Adam Page stuff and everybody else, which he did. He completely did. But the point is like the same shit happened with Vince all the time. I mean, for all the talk of like these little scuffles in WCW, there were fights in the dressing room, that where guys like Scott Steiner and DDP, where nobody got in trouble because they were afraid to punish Scott Steiner, who wasn't anywhere close to the draw that Punk was, you know what I mean? And they let that go, and they had all that backstage issues in WCW, and that was all there. I was reading, like, I told you this. I actually had the finished copy of the book, the Mark Raimondi book, and I'm reading back, and it's like, this stuff is so the problem with Eric at least kept the troops in order. I'm reading this, and it's like, this is worse than AEW, like way worse. So yeah, that's another situation, but yeah. So anyway,
so the idea that WrestleMania is moving, what happens to the folks who've already booked stuff for New Orleans, the conventions, the WrestleCon, all that stuff? What happens?
They're all going to be out a lot of money. They were out a lot of money at the Tampa one, remember, during COVID too. But yeah, they're all going to be out a lot of money. People who bought their hotels early, but I guess you could probably get a cancel on that. It's so far in advance. But yeah, some of those people, you rely on WWE, and that's part of the game that this can happen. The promoters are going to do what they're going to do. I mean, it's the same thing when, remember when UFC moved that fight because John Jones couldn't get licensed, and all those people, that was the week of the show. And all those people had flown in, had their hotels and everything in Vegas, and then the show's in Anaheim, So it's, these companies do not care about their fans that much. And they certainly don't care about people piggybacking off of their stuff at all. They will put up with it. If it was up to them, they would try to block it. In San Jose, they did everything they could to block it. They tried to get the whole county to lock down and not book anything for anyone. So they would have to go to Hayward or Santa Cruz, which nobody went to book shows. But then the fairgrounds let people in, and so it ended up. But when they came to Santa Clara, I mean, they wanted nobody. They wanted none of these indie people in. But they failed, and since then it's just been okay. Begrudgingly, it's just part of the deal. So they're not crying over those people, being out money.
Now, when the company has been hot and then has fallen a little bit.
Okay, so anyway, the start of all this was how long can you be hot? And it's like, so they were hot with the Hogan era until, Hogan left, essentially, or before Hogan left, but Hogan's star started to diminish, and they had built Hogan up. Everything was about Hogan. So when Hogan left, they were going to go down, and they did. Okay, then the second boom, that pretty much, I would say, ended when Stone Cold went heel and Rock went to Hollywood. So this
4 years. Actually 3 years. 98.
The real boom, I would say, 98, 99, 2000, and late 2001 was when it started going down. So yeah, like 3.5 years maybe. This one, if we're gonna do a start date, what do we say? Like spring of 2022, or do we go when the Sami Zayn Roman Reigns thing happened for the start?
Yeah, I guess the spring of 2022 would be sort of like the end of 97, sort of like the building of it. So
we've had less than 3 years. Well, right at 3 years now. We're right at 3 years. The difference now is that the first one was all about Hogan. The second one was really all about Austin and Vince. And there were supporting characters and everything that were very big on the second one, but that's still what it was. Now, if I'm going to say it's Cody and Roman, but you know what? It's like, this is the one where it's just WWE. It's just WWE. It's SummerSlam. It's WrestleMania. And you're always going to have those. So I think everyone is counting on the idea that you're not going to have the big fall this time. And history says you will. It's always happened. But I think that the other difference too is in those eras when your business went down, right? In this era, you know, you're guarded against it because everything, it doesn't matter. You know,